Did you notice the new secretary in my office? A temp agency sent her over to help out while Miss Hamish was in the hospital. Her name's Samantha. A really sweet girl. She's newlywed. She lives here in town. And I could tell from the moment she got here that she really wants to work here permanently. I mean, it's a 5-minute commute, very convenient for her right here in town. It'd be a great job for her. Yeah? Anyway, this morning, she was trying to figure out through a series of sideways questions exactly how serious Miss Hamish's illness was. And she was acting concerned, of course. But I could see in her eyes, she doesn't know Miss Hamish. She can't help it. There's a part of her that wants Miss Hamish to die. It'll get her the job. So Miss Hamish is dead, Terry. I got the call about an hour ago.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Don't say things you don't mean, Terry. You're not sorry she's gone. You barely knew her.
Sorry.
After I got off the phone with the hospital, I called the temp agency and I told them, we're going to hire Samantha permanently. They thanked me and they said they'd call her and give her the news. And I said, if you don't mind, I would rather do it because I kind of wanted to spring the news on her. What a great way for she and I to start our working together, right? But now, I have to tell her she's got the job. And I will have to watch while she pretends to be sad. Life's a mess, dude. But we're all just doing the best we can, You and me and Samantha. We're just doing what we can. So if I hurt you, or if I lied to you, all I can tell you is I'm sorry. And I will try to do better. Maybe I will do better, or maybe I'll do even worse. I don't know. I screw up all the time, because that's what people do.
I want it to be understood perfectly clearly. I'm not out, therefore, to save the world. That I am not a guru. In other words, when a bird sings, it doesn't sing for the advancement of music. But if somebody stops to listen and is delighted, that's fine. And so I talk in the same spirit. And every sensible person makes his living by doing what he enjoys doing. And that explains me. My objective is really to get rid of you, so that you won't need me or any other teacher. That explains me. accept you as you are.
That explains me.
I suppose most of you have heard of Zen. But before going on to explain any details about it, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. I am not a Zen Buddhist. I am not advocating Zen Buddhism. I'm not trying to convert anyone to it. I have nothing to sell. I'm an entertainer. That is to say, in the same sense that when you go to a concert and you listen to someone play Mozart, he has nothing to sell except the sound of the music. He doesn't want to convert you to anything. He doesn't want you to join an organization in favor of Mozart's music as opposed to, say, Beethoven's. And I approach you in the same spirit as a musician with his piano or a violinist with his violin. I just want you to enjoy a point of view which I enjoy.
In music, one doesn't make the end of a composition the point of the composition. If that were so, the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to concerts just to hear one crashing chord, because that's the end. But we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you're going to kindergarten, you know. And that's a great thing, because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then, come on, first grade leads to second grade, and so on, and then you get out of grade school, you've got high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance. And they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, this thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax. A dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.
Get up, I get up, I get up, I get down. We all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you are part of the math. Cats think I'm delirious, but I'm so damn serious. That's why I expose my soul to the globe, the world. I'm trying to make it better for these little boys and girls. I'm not just another individual. My spirit is a part of this. That's why I get spiritual. But I get my hymns from him. So it's not me, it's he that's lyrical. I'm not a miracle. I'm a heaven-sent instrument. My rhythmic regiment navigates melodic notes for your soul and your mental. That's why I'm instrumental. Vibrations is what I'm into. Yeah, I need my Lubarende, but that ain't what gives me the heart of Kunta Kinte. I'm trying to give us free like Sinke. I can't stop, that's why I'm hot. Determination, dedication, motivation. I'm talking to you and my many inspirations. When I say that I can't let you or self down. If I were on the highest cliff, on the highest rip, and you slipped off the side and clinched onto your life in my grip, I would never, ever let you down. And when these words are found, let it be known that God's penmanship has been signed with a language called love. That's why my breath is felt by the deaf, and why my words are heard and confined to the ears of the blind. I too dream in color and in rhyme, so I guess I'm one of a kind in a full house. Cause whenever I open my heart, my soul, or my mouth, a touch of God rains out. Take them to church. Yeah.
I heard your album and that Voodoo Punani song and all that stuff, and I'm seriously, and I went home that day. See, you don't know this. I never told you this. I'm glad I'm talking about this, because I listened to your album and I had to leave early. I got out of there, and you couldn't understand. You got mad at me. You called me up and you go, "You just left without saying bye. You just took off." You know why I took off? I couldn't handle being around you, because I was so not only inspired, but I went, my friend's doing something really special here, and I know I have something in me, and I'm not living up to it. And being around him is reminding me of the fact that I'm not living my fucking life. And I remember you called me and you were mad, and I made up some excuse, I started telling you like some excuse, and then I went, dude, I gotta be honest with you. You fucked me up a little bit. I said that song and that your jokes were so awe-inspiring to me, and I went home and I started writing. And so that's what happened to me. That was a huge catalyst for me. I went home and started writing, because after I heard that song and after I heard those fucking jokes you were coming, those goddamn this was I don't know how many years ago.
99.
They were so fucking well formed. You were such a tidal wave. It was like an example for the first time where I saw an artist just peak, come together, and just put out the power you were putting out was so retarded that it was changing the whole fucking room. People were like, what the fuck, this guy's writing songs, he's doing. And I remember going, I gotta taste some of that, I gotta have some of that, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
I get that still.
That's what you need, man.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that in your life, you gotta find it.
Yep.
Either surround yourself with friends who do it, go to TED.com, do whatever you have to do, man. Find it. It's out there. And the beautiful thing about the technology, and this is for the young people, is that you can spend your time listening to music and reading about what Lady Gaga wore to the gym, or you can fucking open your mind to a whole world out there, to a whole world out there, to a whole world out there, to a whole world out there.
And it's important to not give in to jealousy. When you see someone doing something that you're not doing and you feel like, fuck, I'm not doing, there's an instinct to protect yourself by bullshitting yourself and becoming jealous and bitter and talking shit about that person. And that's where haters come from. What haters are, 100% of all haters in the world are unrealized potential. When, like, Michael Jordan's not a hater, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, like, when you get to a guy at that level, they're not haters. The real haters are
There's no time to hate.
They see someone doing well and it bothers them. To a person like a Michael Jordan or a winner, they see someone doing well and it inspires them to take it up another notch.
I've always tried to look at things like that. When you see something great, and if it's a friend of yours or something, you have to use it as inspiration. It's supposed to inspire you. I think what happens is a lot of times they say, well, you know what, there is scarcity in the world, so there's only a certain size of the pie, and if you're doing this, you've taken up all the pie and there's no room for me. Not true, man.
Not at all.
There is no scarcity.
It's a terrible way of thinking,
if you open yourself up to something beautiful and great and let that work through you and really be affected, be astonished by it, be scared by it, be brought to your knees by it, whatever it takes, you will find way more strength in that surrender to the beautiful than you will when you close yourself off. And all of us, man, all of us had this notion to go, I'm closing myself off, fuck this.
Everybody wants to win the lottery, but the lottery will fucking ruin you. You have to earn the whole thing. In order to be a real man or a real woman, you have to earn the whole thing. And the crazy thing is, to be the man, to get to that point, to be the man, you literally have to not ever be possibly the man, because you have to get to this Zen state where there is no the man. It's all about the work. It's all about what genius you're putting out is all about, whether it's music or whether it's writing or whatever the fuck it is. It's all about finding that real pure place. So there is never the man. That's when the muse kicks in. The idea of this all comes from somewhere else. It's like, maybe it is just an attitude that allows you to bypass the ego. Brian, you've inspired people.
this is a good podcast. You know, I've talked to so many people, and I talked to a lot of them this weekend. We did the Irvine Improv, and it was a lot of fun. And we talked to a lot of people that are podcast fans. And one of the things, the number one thing that keeps coming up is these people say that, first of all, a lot of people listen to it at work. They listen to it while they're doing stupid shit that they don't like doing, and they just love the fact that there's something like this out there. And two, they say it gives them an opportunity to look at things completely different, and it's shaping the way people think, man. There's a difference between what we're doing here than the sort of the average radio show and the average podcast is we're not afraid to talk about weird, deep shit and go, and because of that, it's allowing other people to consider possibilities and ways of thinking that I don't think they would have.
Attention all you rule breakers, you misfits and troublemakers, all you free spirits and pioneers, all you visionaries and nonconformists. Everything the establishment has told you is wrong with you is actually what's right with you. You see things others don't. You are hardwired to change the world. Unlike 9 out of 10 people, your mind is irrepressible, and this threatens authority. You were born to be a revolutionary. You can't stand rules because in your heart you know there's a better way. You have strengths dangerous to the establishment, and it wants them eliminated. So your whole life you've been told your strengths were weaknesses. Now I'm telling you otherwise. Your impulsivity is a gift. Impulses are your key to the miraculous. Your distractibility is an artifact of your inspired creativity. Mood swings reflect the natural pulse of life. They give you unstoppable energy when you're high, deep soulful insight when you're low. Been diagnosed with a disorder? That's society's latest way to deny its own illness by pointing the finger at you. Your addictive personality is just a symptom of your vast underused capacity for heroic creative expression and spiritual connection. Your utter lack of repression, your wide-eyed idealism, your unmitigated open mind. Didn't anyone ever tell you? These are the traits shared by the greatest pioneers and visionaries, innovators, revolutionaries, procrastinators, and drama queens, activists on the social scene, space cadets, and mavericks, philosophers.
Most of us feel different. I think in teenage in particular, but almost all throughout life for certain people, there is this tension. On the one hand, you want to belong. You want to be a part of the tribe. You want to be, enclosed in a community and feel the friendship and all the fellowship of being connected. And another part of one wants to stand alone and be an individual who is utterly different from everyone else. They're the tribe, they're the muddy Philistines, and I am the artistic, sensitive soul. So you want to be a part of the tribe and you want to be apart from the tribe. And it's that pull that I think gives an enormous creative tension that allows people, it's that spark of electricity, if you like, that makes people creative. It's their desire to be absolutely unique, but also their desire to belong. That sense of, so they understand other people and what it is to be part of the community, but they also understand the sense of the status of an alien and an outsider. And youth cultures that old people stupidly mock, because they say, oh, you're trying to be different, but you're all dressed the same. Oh, ho, ho, ho. You just don't get it. That's not the point. You really do hear adults say that and think they're being clever. You're all in the same rings and gothic whatevers, and now you say you just want to be different. Well, you're not. No, it's not. Yes, that's what they're doing. Is what I'm describing is they're belonging, but they're outside, and it's that paradox, if you like, or that counter sort of that contraflow, if you like, that I think makes life exciting and gives the rosin that our ballet shoes can grip the stage with, if you like. That's a strange metaphor. I don't know where that came from, but you know what I mean.
To do what's never been done, to paint what's never been painted, to dance what's never been danced. This is somehow you're acting for everybody when you do that. It's an amazing thing to do something that's never been done. It means once you've done it, it's been done. That's right.
Going out bigger and bigger, like all these great minds that go out there, and it spends off a big area for all of humanity to run around in this area of being and knowing. It's this whole process of
It's what aeronautical engineers call stretching the envelope. When you fly a fighter plane, you have the predicted engineering performance characteristics, but once you validate that it can do that, then it's up to the pilot to find out, to stretch the envelope, to find out what it can really do, how fast it can turn, how fast it can climb, and that's what we as creative artists do for the human enterprise. And the lacking ingredient is courage, I think. Often I have the feeling that it's no longer, at least in my own life, about seeking the answer. It's about facing it. It isn't about, is it yoga, is it Taoism, is it this, is it that? Now, I think that now I know, at least for me, what it is, but the answer is so appalling and requires such courage to execute it and carry it through that I don't know what to do. I have no doubt that we could all become the Taoist hermit on Cold Mountain, and be that person of whom people in the valley say, "Oh, him, we see him sometimes when it snows very deeply because he comes further down for wood. He comes and goes in the mist and never talks to anybody." We could all become that person. There are no barriers to ultimate spiritual attainment. But what about your lover and your devotion to French chocolate and all of these things? That's tricky. That's very, very tricky. But that's the challenge, you see. That's the weird thing about the psychedelics. It is a path, but in a sense, it's the end of the path. And then what do you do? It's like you're a sailor on some kind of a vast ocean where you let down your net into the deeps, and the hope is that you will snare an idea of some sort and of some size, and it may be, that you come up with the equivalent of tuna, which is many small ideas, and perhaps you bring up your nets and see that they have just been shredded by something so large that you scarcely care to imagine it. But the hope is to land an idea of intermediate size that you can then fully explore and understand. When you go into that ocean as a swimmer, you see these things passing in review, things of such beauty and intricacy and complexity that you are literally speechless, and even speechless in terms of an interior dialogue about what you're seeing. You can't, it just blows your mind and washes past you in such profusion that there seems to be the notion of capturing it seems to be like the notion of a child emptying the ocean with a cup. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago we meditated or thought about what would you do if you could do anything, and how...
Go for it.
Oh, there it is.
Stretching the envelope.
Yes. And how you imagine, or if a genie were to suddenly tell you had not 3 wishes but thousands, and you would begin to dabble in fulfillment, and then, of course, in the all the trivial and superficial things I mentioned, palaces and Ferraris and all this, but then things like that you could move anywhere instantly. How would you choose to travel if you could move anywhere instantly? The only values which have any meaning, if you can do anything and have anything, are aesthetic values. So that if you could travel anywhere instantly, how would you travel? You would walk, obviously. You know, because it's so tasteful. Because it's so completing. It's such a complete reverence for space and time and your own body and the correctness of the situation. Time and time at La Chirera, someone would be doing something some way, and someone else would say, well, if you're omniscient, why don't you just make it be done? And the answer is because it's crass to do that. You know, the way to do things, if you can do anything, is to do them right. That realization of the total richness and correctness of the moment that's the correct interpretation.
We're mashing down the building blocks. A struggle, hurt, pain, we have to smash up all the rocks. Bust the hinges off the doors that seem forever locked. And walk towards our destiny that seems forever lost. And if you fail towards it each and everlasting goals, just remember you're an everlasting shining soul. Find your purpose, hold your strength, and don't you ever fold. Although in life, man, it feels like every day is cold. This transcends color, age, or your situation. Speaking out to every person, part of every nation. Cause in the end, positivity and love shall reign. In the world of change where nothing ever stays the same. What is your mission like a magnet? What are you attracting? What is your talent? What you're holding? What's your major passion? Whatever it is, just stay focused and just make it happen. Whatever it is, just stay focused and just make it happen.
Well, I'm Antoine. This is my teammate Nika.
Hi. Nice to meet you as well.
And Hannah.
When you were our age, like early 20s, mid 20s, did you have like a certain goal that you were trying to reach, or were you just kind of like figuring things out?
Well, when I was 21 was when I first started doing stand-up comedy, and all I wanted to do at first was just be able to make a living, you know. But my parents did not want me to be a stand-up comedian. They did not think I was funny. They thought that was obnoxious. They thought I was obnoxious, and they were telling me this was really hard to do. You need to have a backup plan, and made me question, you know, what I was doing. The beginning years of stand-up comedy are brutal, and when you bomb, you're screwed up for weeks on end because you can't.
Yeah, how did you get over that? Because, you know, I was living in South Korea for 2 years, and then I kind of fell into English broadcasting and really all about that. And I also really am interested in like human issues and helping people, and so I want to bridge that together. But I guess my thing is just getting enough confidence. How did you push past that?
You just do it. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but you just do it. I had a good fortune that at an early age in my life, I got very involved in competitive athletics and one-on-one scary stuff. And it was terrifying to be, you know, 15, 16 years old, and you can't sleep because you know you have a fight in the morning. It took me years to figure out that what I was doing was trying to figure out what I was capable of. You know, through martial arts or through any difficult endeavor, you get to know yourself. You get to know, like, you put your character to the test and you get results, and you try to process those results and improve upon what you know think your weaknesses are, improve upon your strengths, and you learn. Like when I first started doing stand-up comedy, you know, I was always terrified that it wasn't going to work out. You know, there's days that you don't feel funny, you're tired, and you go up and you're like, what the f am I doing up here? You know, and it's like, it never feels 100%. It always feels like it'll all fall apart at any time. You know, you always wish, God, can I just be there already? Can I be at a place where I can make money? But once you get to a place where you make money, there's like this weird like settling down and then now what? And then you realize that the whole thing is not about getting to a place. The whole thing is about the constant pursuit of your interests, the constant pursuit of creativity, the constant pursuit of whatever it is that fascinates you. Because then you're never really working. Like right now, I'm never working. It's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to do my podcast today? Am I going to go talk with some cool people? Am I going to go do some stand-up comedy? Nothing is things, there's no thing that I do where I'm like, here comes this again. There's nothing. And that's the way to have a happy life. It's not about like how much money you make. You just want to have enough money to go out to dinner all the time. That's the best.
What were some of the turning points that attributed you to having this outlook that you have and being able to go for it?
I've done things just for money. Like Fear Factor did just for money. Even though I had a great time and there was a lot of cool people on the show, there was a lot of days I didn't want to do it. I'm going to watch more people eat roaches and slide through mud with their mouth open. Like, what the f*** is wrong with me? But doing the UFC and doing stand-up comedy, neither one of those I do for money. There's a quote some author said that most men live lives of quiet desperation. You know, if you ever talk to somebody who wanted to be a baseball player and became a lawyer, they are haunted people. My advice to you is the advice that seems like too simple. It seems too ridiculous. But it's, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Literally, I feel like my head's on a swivel, like it's just spinning around. I'm like, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. I would love to be like a nightclub owner and just like, I have this envision that like, I can be on like a balcony looking down like through a window and just like, I see all these people dancing and drinking and having a good time. I'm like, hey, they're at my place and they're doing this, you know? And then,
sounds like you want to be a pimp. Look at all my people in my club.
I don't know, there's so many.
That's a ridiculous idea. If you could write it down, give me just one and just stick with that one. What is the one thing, if you had one thing to do?
I would love to self-publish graphic novels and write and illustrate.
This is all within your grasp. You don't even need to get anybody to print it. You need a digital copy and somebody buys that digital copy and distributes it. It's cake, it's ridiculously easy. If you want to do something, start doing something on the internet. You know, especially because you say you want to be involved in broadcast journalism. There's people that have their own little shows on the internet that have millions of viewers. You could literally start your own project, and if you ever got a real job doing something, you would already be comfortable talking, you'd already be comfortable with criticism, because there is no criticism like internet criticism. When those creeps can be anonymous, sitting behind their, they can say the nastiest things ever, but they say things sometimes that are right. That's where it's really difficult. When someone's a huge jerk, but what they're saying is very valid. Like, God, I have to consider this? Like, you have to consider that a jerk is dissecting you and criticizing you correctly. It's very hard, but I think it's good. I really do. The contentment's going to come from that. The contentment's going to come from, even though it's difficult, even though it's testing you all the time, even though it's, you know, it's constantly challenging, you're doing what you want to do, though. Yeah. We have this really strange society where the only way to keep the society moving is that a great percentage of the people have to be doing things they don't want to do most of the day. It doesn't have to be you, though. It doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be you. You know, you just have to figure out what it is you like and do it.
I've never really heard someone give me an answer with such confidence, because most times when you ask someone about your life, they don't know how to answer you, that you catch them off guard. That's what blew me away the most, was just that he was so affirmative about it, like a friend would do or a family member.
Follow your path. I think that's the theme of our conversation today, right?
Yeah.
You said, you all talked about what success was. You talked about Carnegie Hall, you mentioned success. And I found out along the way somewhere that the secret of success or happiness is doing something you love, doing it well, and being recognized for it. The third part is very important. Not enough to do it in solitude, away from the crowd. Someone, even if it's just your boss, has to say, I saw the report that you did for the yearly review. That was wonderful. There's a lot of work went into that. I saw it, and it was wonderful. That means everything to a person. So that is part of the definition for me of happiness or success, to feel you're being recognized for your good stuff.
What makes you itch? What sort of a situation would you like?
Let's suppose, I do this often in vocational guidance of students. They come to me and say, well, we're getting out of college and we haven't the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, but as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. Or another person says, well, I'd like to live an out-of-doors life and ride horses. I say, do you want to teach in a riding school? Let's go through with it. What do you want to do? When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually turn it, you could eventually become a master of it. It's the only way to become a master of something, to be really with it. And then you'll be able to get a good fee for whatever it is. So don't worry too much. Somebody's interested in everything. And anything you can be interested in, you'll find others who are. But it's absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like, doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow in the same track. See, what we're doing is we're bringing up children and educating them to live the same sort of lives we're living, in order that they may justify themselves and find satisfaction in life by bringing up their children, to bring up their children to do the same thing, so it's all retch and no vomit. It never gets there. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
If I had known when I was younger that chasing technique, chasing an answer, is fatal, and I would say this, and many people would scream with disbelief, I would say the worst thing you can ever do in life is set yourself goals. I think goal orientation is absolutely disastrous in life. Two things happen. One is you don't meet your goal, so you call yourself a failure. Secondly, you meet your goal and go, well, I'm here, now what? I'm not happy. I've got this car, this job, I'm living in this address, which I always thought was the place I wanted to be, and what? Because you're going for something outside yourself, and that's no good. My favorite quotation almost, at least at the moment, is from Noel Coward, who was a very great actor, producer, writer, musician. He was all round. He was known as the master by everyone who knew him because he was so good at everything. And he said, work is more fun than fun. And if I had known that the real joy in life is work, and if you can say of the work you do that it's more fun than fun, then you're in the right place. Most of us, of course, don't have that all the time, but every time you look in the bathroom mirror in the morning, if you can say, is my work more fun than fun? Or is it treading water? Is it just getting me to a wage packet that allows me to go to bars and buy things? And if that's it, then that's a bit of a treadmill, I think. And everyone has it in them to express themselves, that fundamental thing that they know they are inside, that rather beautiful, afraid person, which might get translated into aggression or silence or shyness or all kinds of other things. But inside we know we are huggable and lovable and we want to love and be loved. That person is yearning for fulfillment, to be the person that they know they can be. And that's a constant journey. It's a process. It's not about acquiring this thing and then that thing, getting to this place, learning this technique, finding out how this works. It's about, I suppose to me, It's about the fact that other people are always more interesting than oneself. And if there is a thing, let's forget what successful people have in common. If there is a thing that unsuccessful people have in common, it's that they talk about themselves all the time. I need to do this. I need, you know, the first two words are usually I need. And that's why nobody likes them. And that's why they'll never get where they want to be. Because it's I need this and I don't, I, my, I. There's an English word for that, egocentric or egoistical or egotistical. All the words from ego, the Latin for I. And if you just say I all the time, you get nowhere. If you're interested in other people, if you use your eyes to look out, not to be looked into, and then you connect, and then you're interesting, and then people want to be around you. And it's about the warmth and the charm you can radiate that is real because of your positive interest in others. And if you expect it to come to you and go, or I never had this, or I was, you know, you hear people, I happen to love, and I know a lot of people don't, but I happen to love the works of William Shakespeare, the poet and playwright. I think they are amongst the greatest things that humanity has ever done, up there with the pyramids or whatever it is you want to choose. The number of times you hear people say, oh, it was ruined for me at school. And I tend to say to them, yeah, I don't really like the Grand Canyon or the Lake District or the mountains of Scotland because I had a really bad geography teacher, so I don't find them very beautiful. I mean, it's just nonsensical. It's a sign of people stopping back and blaming something else, rather than just saying, oh, I wasn't ready for it then, and maybe I never will be, but I'm not going to blame someone else for it. It's that attitude of looking inwards. And American television is filled with people sitting in chairs on these sort of afternoon talk shows, going, I need whining about their lives. So I'm beautiful, I'm lovely, and yet nobody, you know, I'm special, I have need, oh, shut up. Stop whining. Just grow up and get a life and look around you at other people and don't expect people to care. Don't expect people to be interested. Who do you feel more sorry for? Who do you actually want to hug? The person you happen to know has a tumor and is just getting through life, not talking about it, smiling, trying not to embarrass anybody about it. Or the kind of person who's always going, oh, my leg, that went there, and then I had this pain here, and the doctor didn't know what to do about it, and I get these flushes. He said, oh, Christ, I'm sure it's terrible for you, dear, but shut up. You know, you just don't. Now, of course, we do our best, and we feel sorry for all kinds of people, and we, you know, show sympathy, but the real heroism of people who quietly get on with their lives and think of others should be rewarded, and usually is, by the fact that they are liked. And if you're liked, people want to be with you, and if people want to be with you, they share opportunities with you, and you observe the way they do things, and your life can open up. And there are opportunities everywhere, whether you're in a small town or in a tiny apartment in a huge city. There are opportunities. You know, you can, simply by talking more to the person in the coffee shop, in the coffee store, you know, in your Starbucks or whatever, simply by just having a few extra words. They're probably doing a concert somewhere in a little bar in the evening, and you might go along and you meet them and you meet someone else, and you might, who knows, that's how some people become managers of musicians. They go out and they find talent, and they look at it, other people. So that really, to me, is, if life has any secret, it's abnegation of self. Efface yourself. Don't talk. Just don't say. If you kept yourself saying me or I too often, you're on the wrong track.
You poison yourself when you have a very negative outlook on the world. You know what I mean? I'm so busy trying to solve problems, I can't take the time out and feel bad because the world. Look, if I project like H.G. Wells, he believed the world should have been far in advance by today, and he died bitter against it. What was wrong with H.G. Wells is he had expectations of the world. I don't. Do the best you can to make it better, but whatever they do, that's the real world. What happens is the real world. What I think should happen is wrong. You do your best to make it happen, but if it doesn't, that's all you can do is your best. Do you understand that? But if you have expectations of somebody and it doesn't turn out that way, it means your judgment regarding that person is wrong. Like a girl came to me and she said, I sent my boyfriend through college to become a doctor. I paid for all his college training. And then he ran off with my best girlfriend and got married. So I said, you're very lucky. He was a son of a bitch. You got rid of a bad guy. Your ability to judge people is what's at fault, not the guy. He was a son of a bitch, but you couldn't detect that. So you have to learn how to evaluate people. And once you learn to do that, you're more apt to have better judgment. Do you understand? It's not the world that hurts you. It's your own expectations.
If you look at how many other worlds there are, how many stars in the Milky Way galaxy, how many other galaxies there are, it seems the height of human arrogance to imagine that this planet is the only inhabited world. But at the same time, we don't know of life elsewhere yet. We're just at the very earliest stages of exploration, and we've not found life anywhere else, but no sign of life. That suggests life doesn't come everywhere. Life isn't all that easy to arise. And it says something, therefore, about the rarity and preciousness of life on our planet. It's something that needs to be cherished, taken care of. So the flip side of not finding life elsewhere is a much greater respect for the life that's here. I would think a universe in which we are the only living things is much more incredible than a universe just burgeoning, overflowing with life. But we can't be sure. It's an experimental question. It has to be addressed experimentally.
Consider a couple of fundamental facts that has been gleaned in the past 60 years. It took modern astrophysics to determine the origin of the chemical elements. We observe stars, we know what goes on in their center, they explode, laying bare their contents, and what we have discovered is that the elements of the periodic table, that which we are made of, derived from the actions of stars that have manufactured the elements, exploded, scattered their enriched guts across the galaxy, contaminating or enriching gas clouds that then form a next generation of stars populated by planets and possibly life. When you look at the ingredients of the universe, the number one ingredient is hydrogen. Next is helium. Next is carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. Those are the top ingredients in the universe. So you say, well, okay, that's kind of cool. Well, what are we made of? With the exception of helium, which is chemically inert, number one in the human body is hydrogen. Matches the universe. Number two is oxygen. Matches the universe. Number three, carbon. Matches the universe. Number four, nitrogen. Matches the universe. And for each of us, the fifth element is the same in both places. So, we learned in the last 50 years that, of course, not only do we exist in this universe, it is the universe itself that exists within us. But there are people who are upset by that fact, saying, well, that mean we're not special? Well, I think it's special in another kind of way. Because when you look up at the night sky, it's no longer we're here and that's there. It's that we are part of that. And that association, for me, is actually quite enlightening and ennobling and enriching. In fact, it's almost spiritual. Looking up at the night sky and finding a sense of belonging. We're made of the most common ingredients there are. And our chemistry is based on carbon. Carbon is the most chemically active ingredient in the entire periodic table. If you were to find a chemistry on which to base something really complex called life, you would base it on carbon. So, if we ask ourselves, are we alone in the universe? I tell you in the same breath that it would be inexcusably egocentric to suggest that we are alone in the cosmos.
Now, I want you to think about the perfect set of circumstances that put this celestial ball of fire at just the correct distance from our little blue planet for life to evolve. But that's a nice thought, right? Everything has a purpose, an order to it, is determined. But then there's the other side of the argument, the theory of randomness, which says it's all simply coincidence. The very fact we exist is nothing but the result of a complex, yet inevitable string of chemical accidents and biological mutations. There is no grand meaning. There's no purpose.
Restate my assumptions. 1. Mathematics is the language of nature. 2. Everything around us can be represented and understood through numbers. 3. If you graph the numbers of any system, patterns emerge. Therefore, there are patterns everywhere in nature. So what about the stock market? A universe of numbers that represents the global economy. Millions of human hands at work, billions of minds, a vast network screaming with life, an organism, a natural organism. My hypothesis, within the stock market, there is a pattern, right in front of me, playing with the numbers. Always has been. 1018, press return.
This is simple physics. All right. As many of your scientists are beginning to realize, everything exists all at once, all now, in a sense, all here. But you create the illusion of separation by creating differences in vibrational frequency. The only way to create the illusion of movement is to actually shift from parallel reality to parallel reality that's slightly different than the reality you were in before. So you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now, you're shifting now. This is the way motion is created. This is a natural thing that you do. This is the nature of how reality works. This is the nature of how change exists. So the question is not, can you shift? The question is, what will you shift to? The idea is that you don't notice this so much because each new reality you shift to is very similar to the one you were existing in before. The idea of noticing the change is to create there to be a bigger difference. Simply comes down to the notion of definitions, how you define your reality, belief systems. Basically, is what we are talking about. All experiences in life are based upon the strongest definition you have bought into about that reality. Is this making some sense to you? All right.
The most dominant cultural attributes maintained are the ones that are reinforced by your environment. If you are born into a society which rewards competition over collaboration, then you most likely will adopt those values in order to survive. The point is, we are essentially biochemical machines. The source of our actions come fundamentally from the ideas and experiences installed on our mental hardware by the world around us. However, our biological computer, the human mind, has an evolutionarily installed operating system, if you will, with some seemingly difficult tendencies built in, which tends to limit our objectivity and hence our rational thought process. This comes in the form of emotional inclinations. You know, I'm sure many people here have heard the phrase, be objective. No human being can be fully objective. Therefore, there is a very common propensity for us humans to find something that works for our needs, given the social structure, and then to hold on to it for dear life, regardless of new conflicting information which might rationally expect a logical change to occur. Change tends to be feared, for it upsets our associations. Therefore, anytime someone dares to present an idea outside of or contrary to the establishment programming, the reaction is often a condemning of the idea as blasphemy or undermining or conspiracy or simply erroneous.
This energy that we're generating that can now be photographed and can certainly be felt when you meet someone and you say, oh, I've got bad vibes from them or I've got good vibes from them, depending on their own state of being. This energy is the energy that creates our reality because it attracts to us a reflection of itself, and what that energy reflects is our inner self, our emotional, spiritual and mental state. So when we feel fear, we attract to us fear. We attract to us what we most fear. And this is the ultimate evolutionary genius. It's what I call designer evolution. Because of this system of what we put out is what we get back, we constantly see a reflection of our inner self in our everyday life. Therefore, we can see our inner self in a physical way and learn from the experience and move on. Also, fear is the greatest block on evolution. Whatever area that we fear, that our fear relates to, is a no-go area for our evolution. Because people don't normally say, well, I fear that, I'm going to face it. They go, oh, no, thank you very much, change the subject, not going in there. So this process of drawing to us what we put out means that we have to face what we're putting out, so we can face it and evolve. So, when we fear something, we draw what we fear to us eventually. When we put out anger, we draw to us anger. And I realized, and I started to ask a few questions, what's the common denominator of all these angry confrontations? Oh yes, it's you. So what goes on? What's causing them? Why? I started to realize, because I was angry, I was attracting anger. There was a lovely song that I came across by an American group which said, if you hold anger, guess what comes to you? A lot of very angry people do. And I certainly know that to be true. And when I've observed my own life and the lives of others, it's very obvious that what they're putting out in their state of being is creating their physical life. And there's nothing more debilitating, more controlling and limiting than the victim mentality. We're encouraged by this manipulation throughout our lives to see ourselves as victims, to blame someone else. Oh, I'm a victim, I'm in this situation because of A, B, C, D, and on it goes. And when we're in that state, we're going to stay in that state, because when you think you're a victim, the victim vibe goes out, the victim circumstance goes in. When you say, hey, I'm not a victim, I'm in control of my life, I've created these circumstances I don't like, therefore I can create circumstances I do. At that point, the victim mentality's gone. Victim circumstances stop being attracted, and suddenly people come into your life who are just the people you need to get you out of the circumstances you don't like. And if you don't realize what's happening, and most of us don't at the time, we say, oh my God, mate, I was so lucky. This fella came into my life at just the right time, this person, I couldn't believe it. Amazing luck. No. You pulled them in because your state of being had changed and you synced with what you needed to get out of that situation. We are so in control of our destiny, it's unbelievable. And yet billions are persuaded they're not, and therefore they create a very different reality. So if we're in fear, we can attract a reflection of fear. But when we emit love, we create a very different energy. Therefore, we create a very different reality. It's just a choice. Everything is just a choice. I keep hearing people say, oh, I had no choice, mate. I had to do it. We never have no choice. We have choices we like to make, choices we'd rather not make, but we never have no choice. It's a cop-out. And some people find it very difficult to take this on because it's much easier in their own mind to blame someone for what happens in our lives. Much more of a challenge to say, hey, I've created this, I'm responsible for it. But when you do, you stop creating what you don't like and you start creating what you do.
The social order as we know it is created out of ideas, either directly or as a systemic consequence. In other words, somebody somewhere did something which generated a group interest. Once a given set of ideas are entrusted by a large enough group of people, it becomes an institution. And once that institution is made dominant, while existing for a certain period of time, that institution can then be considered an establishment. Institutional establishments are simply social traditions given the illusion of permanence. In turn, the more established they become, the more cultural influence they tend to have on us, including our values and hence our identities and perspectives. While there is always a debate about genetics and environmental influence, it's very easy to understand in the context of values. Every intellectual concept which each one of us finds merit with is the result of a cultural information influence. The environment is a self-perpetuating programming process, and just like designing a software program for your computer, each human being is advertently and inadvertently programmed into their worldview. Every word you know has been taught to you one way or another, and thus every concept and belief you have is a result of this same influence. Jacques Fresco once asked me, how much of you is you? The answer, of course, is kind of a paradox. For either nothing is me, or everything is me, when it comes to the information I understand and act upon. Information is a serial process, meaning the only way that a human being can come up with any idea is through taking in dependent information that allows that idea to be realized.
We all must try to understand what is happening. We need to try to understand what is happening. And in my humble opinion, ideology is only going to get in your way. Nobody understands what is happening. Not Buddhists, not Christians, not government scientists, not, no one understands what is happening. So forget ideologies. They betray, they limit, they lead astray. Just deal with the raw data and trust yourself. Nobody is smarter than you are. And what if they are? What good is their understanding doing you? People who walk around saying, well, I don't understand quantum physics, but somewhere somebody understands it. That's not a very helpful attitude toward preserving the insights of quantum physics. Inform yourself. What does inform yourself mean? It means A, transcend and mistrust ideology. Go for direct experience. What do you think when you face the waterfall? What do you think when you have sex? What do you think when you take psilocybin? Everything else is unconfirmable rumor, useless, probably lies. So liberate yourself from the illusion of culture. Take responsibility for what you think and what you do.
Now, folks, I just want you to keep an open mind. I'm not asking you to believe this. I'm sharing information with you. If you choose not to believe it, hey, that's fine. I ask you to exercise your free will. You can absolutely leave. I will not be offended. I've already checked. None of these chairs have seat belts.
We're literally going to create our own demise because we're buying into belief systems that say we ourselves are not mature enough or grown up enough to take care of our own selves. So we need somebody to come in here and take care of us. And I'm not here to offend anybody, but really think about it. Really think about, what we've done and what our history has been. We've been to this place so many times before, and we still haven't gotten it right. And we're still not going to get it right unless we do it as a race and just cut out all the crap. And right now, we have an opportunity. There is a window of time for us to break free, and we have to wake up, period.
I find conditions as they are unacceptable, and I find no threat in social change.
And people have to lose confidence in their elected leaders.
We have to assume responsibility.
If not, I fear the consequences.
So what is the matter with us? Why are we so perverse? What is it that drives the inertia of these dominator systems?
Shouldn't we consider in every nation major changes in the traditional ways of doing things, a fundamental restructuring of economic, political, social, and religious institutions?
The stupidity of a nuclear arms race, the development of weapons, trying to solve your problems politically by electing this political party or that political party, that all politics is immersed in corruption. Let me say it again, that all politics is immersed in corruption.
And even the monetary system, it's just a belief system. The only value on it is what we believe it is. We could change that tomorrow if we wanted to. We're so intelligent, we could create something different.
We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
And it doesn't make any sense. Why are we so patient when our world, our children's world, the world of all future life on Earth hangs in the balance?
I believe our only hope for the future is to adopt a new conception of human ecology, one in which we start to reconstitute our conception of the richness of human capacity. Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we strip mine the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children.
We want to create a real future where our kids will have an opportunity to be whatever they want, to live in an environment that's clean, that's free, where they can have water to drink.
And our task is to educate their whole being so they can face this future. By the way, we may not see this future, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it.
As long as we accept a temporary solution, the problem will go unsolved. It'll be solved for you and me right now, but not for our children.
There are no Negro problems, or Polish problems, or Jewish problems, or Greek problems, or women's problems. They're human problems.
Not an American problem or a Negro problem. And as a human problem or a world problem, we feel that it should be taken out of the jurisdiction of the United States government and the United States courts.
And that's it. We need to stand up as a race, exercise our free will, and say, you know what, we don't want to live this way anymore.
And this is what has to be done on a societal scale. And it is not as difficult as we may wish to be assured by the establishment.
We talk about civilization as though it's a static state. And there are no civilized people yet. It's a process that's constantly going on. We're not civilized. It's an ongoing process. As long as you have war, police, prisons, crime, you're in the early stages of civilization, what they call civilization.
Until you realize that you're symbiotically connected to nature, and that nature is an emergent process where you have to change constantly, where you realize that you being dogmatic about any point of knowledge is inherently destructive. Once you realize that, you can begin to see a different world where there's ego and bias, all of these things begin to fade, because there's no such thing as static knowledge or information.
So most people don't even understand how easily we're influenced by our environment. Every person that we encounter, every single situation that we're faced with, every little word that's said on television may not seem too influential to our conscious minds, but your unconscious is designed specifically to let every environmental signal influence you without your awareness.
And yet here we are, literally creating all this. That's how powerful we are. That's how powerful our minds are. Which is why there's been so much focus on brainwashing, on trying to make us victims, or believe that we're victims. Because the minute we wake up and we take a step back, detached, and see our situation for what it really is, they've lost control. It ends there the minute we awake.
We believe that our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
The time is really coming when people are going to have to stand up and be counted.
I think humanity is now in what I call a final exam as to whether we qualify to stay here. And I'm not talking about political leaders. I'm not talking about religious leaders. I'm talking about humanity.
This is the most serious business that we could be about. This is what we were born to do. And I, for one, am not ready to stand mute witness to that kind of an atrocity.
We're going to do this thing, just as the automobile phased out the stagecoach, just as television stepped in and phased out the old vaudeville and the old motion pictures, that history and technology is respecters of no society, no individual opinions, but it moves on, and we've got to be prepared to face the future.
And so it's possible to figure things out. We can do science, and with it, we can improve our lives.
Application of the methods of science, not scientists, the methods of science to the social system. Naturally, even the methods of science undergo change, and as they change, so would the future.
Now, science has means of giving food, clothes, and shelter practically to everybody.
So the point here is tremendously perverse misdirection of resources, a tremendous patience with institutions that have proven that they are either ineffective or actually the enemy.
So it comes back to people taking personal responsibility for what they think, what they want to believe, and what it is that they want to create.
So what is needed is an awakening.
A transformation of the mind.
And we are the generations, strange as it may seem when you survey the world today, we are the generations, I passionately believe, who are going to love the world into the paradise it really should be and was always designed to be. Changing the world is not something in the future anymore, or hoping to be better for the kids. It's here and now.
A new consciousness is developing which sees the Earth as a single organism and recognizes that an organism at war with itself is doomed. We are one planet.
Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Now is the time. Now is definitely the time to make some changes. And I know you guys are. You know, I know you're so dedicated that you've made the time and put the resources together to come here to hear the speakers, to make the changes within yourself, to share this stuff with your friends and share the DVDs. I know that. We have an opportunity here to create a new paradigm, a new domain of knowing. It just takes leadership. You're going to be the ones that are going to stand there in your communities and say, look, this is what's been going on. This is what it is, and this is what we have to do. It's no accident that you are who you are.
You see, none of it was real. It was illusion. Your art, your science, it was all a nightmare. Now it's done. Finished.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid.
There is no going back. Our enemy pushes us on and on and on. And until we're strong enough or can find Earth and get help, we can never stop or turn
People
away
should not be
or look
afraid
back.
of their governments.
It's got to find the moral high ground. We're all standing in the mud.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those who are not.
We stand between the candle and the star, between the darkness and the light.
The life you know, all the stuff that you take for granted, it's not gonna last.
Say something, goddammit! You're on television! You're live to the whole world!
Also, as we were saying yesterday morning, the content of our consciousness, the content being what you think, what you feel, your reactions, your longings, your despairs, your pleasures, your depressions, your faith, your dogmas, your sorrow, your beliefs, your desperate loneliness, and the fear of ultimate death, possess all that's your consciousness. That's what you are. And we are asking together whether that the content can the content end?
To the same thing again and again, the way to freedom. And that is to step out of the fear what other people think of us and just do it, just do it, just do it. People say to me sometimes, How do I get over the fear of what people think? How do I get over the fear of what people think of me? What I would suggest is let the fear be the trigger to overcome it. So if you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh, well, I'd love to say this, but what will they think? Just say it. Just say it. If the people around you cannot respect your right to be you, then what are you worried about? What they think of you for? And if you're in a situation where I'd love to do this, this is what I like to do, but what will they think? Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And when you get into that just do it mode, just do it mode, just do it mode, some very interesting things start to happen. First of all, you're following your intuition, your heart, your connection with out there, and you're letting that be your guide. Just do it intuitively. And after a while, and I've seen this in my own life, although the head is screaming, oh my God, what are you doing? Eventually, you start to realize that when you follow your intuition, although it might set up great challenges to start with, and you think, oh my goodness, what have I done? Eventually, you see that everything was exactly what was necessary to bring about a positive outcome. And after a while of doing this, of just doing it, just doing it, just doing it, your mind, your head, starts to look at this, and it realizes that every time you follow your intuition, although it's a challenge, eventually everything works out tremendously well. And what happens then is the head and the heart come into sync. And what you think and what you feel become the same thing. And that's when we start to connect with who we really are and the true nature of our power to manifest our own destiny.
There is a sort of fair play. You've been told from the cradle that the deck was stacked against you. Fall of man, original sin, so forth and so on. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. There is a sort of fair play. And if you can get in touch with that in your life, you know, when Muhammad wouldn't come to the mountain came to Muhammad. That's fair play. And if you can have that perception, the world will begin to work for you. It will begin to move toward you as the mountain moved toward Muhammad. Nature loves courage. Nature loves courage. And I said, what's the payoff on that? And it said, it shows you that it loves courage because it will remove obstacles. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers
and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold. This is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. It's done by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering that it's a feather bed. And there's no other way to do it. This is why I have always taken the position that as modern people, you know, we can't go out and set armies marching or launch religions, and who would want to anyhow. But to the people who say adventure has fled, it's all humdrum, I just know, you know, that they have forgotten the 5 grams of psilocybin sitting in their refrigerator. I mean, Magellan may have had excitement rounding the Horn, but you in your living room later tonight can put him in the shade if you have the courage to do the things that are necessary to do. And we know what they are. And of course, the first thing to do is to tell society to fuck off, because they don't know what's going on.
Modern psychology has a word that is probably used more than any other word in psychology. It is the word maladjusted. It is the ringing cry of modern child psychology, maladjusted. Now, of course, we all want to live the well-adjusted life in order to avoid neurotic and schizophrenic personalities. But as I move toward my conclusion, I would like to say to you today, in a very honest manner, that there are some things in our society and some things in our world for which I'm proud to be maladjusted. And I call upon all men of goodwill to be maladjusted to these things until the good society is realized. I must honestly say to you that I never intend to adjust myself to racial segregation and discrimination. I never intend to adjust myself to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few, leave millions of God's children smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society.
The truth is woolly and complicated and difficult and maybe it's I trust people, one of the wisest heads who ever lived on this planet was a philosopher called Socrates, and he was famous for asking questions. He never gave answers. But the questions were so acute, the innocence of a Socratic question. I wonder what we mean by that. And even down to, ethics. What age might it be right ever to abort a fetus, and at what age? If you did it on the Wednesday, it would be child killing. If it's on the Tuesday before, it's okay. How can that be? These things are very complicated, and never stop thinking like that. Never stop being a child who says, why? Can that be right? There was Zeno, one of my favorite philosophers, had a pupil next to him, and he gave him a bean and put it on the table in front of him and said, is that a heap? And the people said, no. He said, we added another one. He said, is that a heap? People said, no. He kept adding them. Eventually people said, that's a heap. He said, a heap is 17, is it? I take this away, it's not a heap anymore. Is a heap 17? And he was making that exact point. I see, so this number of days is a life. Take one away, it's just a mass of chemicals, And life is full of these complexities, like age of consent is a similar one, The police enter a room and there's a couple making love, and the police enter a room, there's a couple making love, and if they'd entered the day before, it would have been statutory rape. But because it was the day after the birthday, it wasn't. Now, it's such a peculiar way to order society like that. I think that the flexibility of being able to think openly about all kinds of problems is really important for one's happiness and for one's sense of self and connection with other people.
I mean, you know, for instance, I don't want to get into an air-clawing rave about this, but I feel as a person who was raised Catholic that I have a certain license to criticize my own subgroup. I think that, you know, the Third Reich was a Sunday school picnic in terms compared to the population policies of the Roman Catholic Church. They will shove millions of people per year into poverty, disease, and death in the pursuit of a theological doctrine that nobody understands the sense of. In a civilized political environment, those people would be placed under immediate arrest, just like we did the leadership of the Nazis. I do not understand how you can call yourself pro-life when the policies that you espouse mean planetary death. That's the program of the pro-life position. More starvation, more agony, more wars, more destroyed land, more toxic output in the name of being pro-life? What have words come to mean? I mean, it's really bizarre. And we, even us in this room, the thing that was so great about the 60s and that is so frustrating about the 90s is people do not get pissed off. I mean, you know, I can tell you this and you can nod in agreement, but, you know, at some point the thing becomes so odious, so clearly intellectually bankrupt, so clearly toxic to any kind of human values that any of us can relate to, that you just have to put yourself on the line. And I don't know when that moment will come. It's not for me to say. I guess a switch will be turned in the unconscious. But there's enough evidence of outrage and muddle-headedness and outright evil around that sooner or later we're going to have to confront it. Otherwise, you know, this is a sinking submarine. And there is no way out unless people who really understand the gravity of the situation and the stakes make their voices heard. If we leave it up to the institutions that have been put in place over the last 500 years, these are anti-human institutions. These institutions hate the human race, hate ordinary people, and until we wake up to this, we're going to be their victims. We're the marks. Well, how do you like being a mark? You can just take so much of that, and then you just finally have to stand up and say, enough.
We have created this society. Not each one of us, but our past generations. We have those and us have created this present immoral, destructive society. And we are trapped by that society. That society is made by each one of us. So we are responsible for that society. Whether it is possible not to change society, but is it possible to radically, deeply transform our conditioning, which is understand deeply our consciousness, which is what we are. Is it possible to transform not into something, but to change, bring about a mutation in the very structure and nature of our consciousness? That is the problem. That's the crisis. It's not political crisis, economic crisis, or the crisis of war. But the crisis is in ourselves. And we apparently cannot face that crisis, or unwilling to face it. And so we try to escape from that fact through various forms of entertainment, religious, political, football, and all the rest of it.
People who can cut through these many, many illusions, the illusion of materialism, the illusion of business as usual, the illusion of benevolent institutions carefully guiding us toward reasonable destinies. If you cut through all that, if you disabuse yourself of all that, you will empower yourself to eventually be able to stand up in delicate social and political situations and just say, bullshit. That's bullshit. And this is worth considering doing simply because we have an imperiled planet on our hands. History is a nightmare from which one must awaken.
Sleep now.
Quite literally. I mean, we have been blind to what we have been doing. We are blind at this moment to what we are doing. If in a single moment the actual nature of our predicament were to fully make itself felt in the mind of any one of us, I think it would be paralyzing. It would be horrifying. We have waited till the last moment of the last hour. The house is burning down around us, and we rouse ourselves from the stupor of materialism, the stupor of Christianity and scientism, the stupor of male dominance, sexism, and racism. If we don't rouse ourselves from this stupor, the momentum toward extinction is now practically irreversible. You know, the Grateful Dead like to sing that song, "We need a miracle every day." We certainly do. We are monkeys, and monkeys love a hell of a good fight. And we have a hell of a fight bearing down on us because we have to clean up the mess. We're not going to go silently into the gentle night of extinction. It's just not going to happen that way. Creativity is going to be unleashed. Struggle is going to be an unavoidable part of trying to steer this battleship away from the cataracts of history in which we are now caught. And it's the greatest challenge to intelligence that intelligence has ever faced. And yet it's precisely the kind of challenge that intelligence should be able to meet, because what it requires is large-scale strategic planning, implementation of visionary responses. It is not incremental. It's sudden, complete, and dramatic. And I really believe that there will only be one chance. You know, we are circling the runway of post-history, and the engines are running low, and there is one approach, and then, you know, if you miss that approach, you're into the drink. if a radical political alternative is not opened up in this country, then we are essentially, I think, going to amuse and entertain ourselves into extinction. Business as usual at this point is a death sentence on the human race. What has to be done is a tribalizing of culture, an ecstaticizing of culture, a dissolving of hierarchy. That means self-empowerment through claiming the new information technologies, through deconditioning from propaganda, through deconditioning from the pharmaphobia that holds everyone within the pre-programmed molds that are being handed down from Madison Avenue and Hollywood. It means actually realizing that your life is your own. Your destiny is your own. I mean, I really believe that we are being asked to participate in the birthing of a new order of being, and that there is reason for great optimism and hope. It looks like we're just boring into solid rock, but in fact, there's somebody else boring through that solid rock, and they have triangulated our approach, and they are hurrying to meet us. I don't think we fell into this situation because of bad fate or bad destiny. This is part of the process.
Although some have changed their ways, others remain the same. Scars of pain that continue to ignite the flames. Freedom, oh freedom, we sing from deep within. Judged due to the color of skin. Break down the barriers of difference. Spread that like incense and take to that aroma. Wake up out of your deep coma. To new days and new ways, a new age and new page. We are no longer children of oppression. Take your slave suit off. Take your slave suit off and shine. This is deeper than many forms of indoctrination that stagnate situation and hold major limitations of forward movement and placement. This is an amazing, everlasting gracing of unpredictable downfalls we're breaking. Like a bird when it flies for the first time, use your third eye and first mind to make it happen. This is deeper than talking about face slapping and gun clapping. Make it happen, whether dancing or you're singing, acting or you're rapping. Make it happen. If you're an activist, hold up your fist, cause now's the time. Check the watch pan your wrist. Make it happen. Make it happen. Make it happen.
What is, the best way to live your life? What is the, there's got to be ways you can be putting forward the most positive energy. I mean, we know objectively what's causing pollution. We know objectively what's causing birth defects and, we're taking in too much chemicals and not enough vitamins. We know objectively all this stuff. We know how to organize our world, and yet we don't do it. We know how to organize our health, and yet very few people do it. We know all these things. The right path to being a happy, healthy person is to do all the shit that we already know you're supposed to do. Take care of your body, take care of your health, take care of your mind, your stress, meditate, be kind to people. We all know that. I mean, you ask anybody, they know how to get by and to be the most evolved version of you that you can be. I mean, it's not like a magical checklist. If you talk to people about it, you said, okay, here you got a person, you want to improve them. What are the things that you're going to do to them? Okay, well, if I was a life coach, the first thing I would say is this guy's got to get on a diet that makes him healthy. I don't mean a diet just to lose weight. I mean just healthy foods in your body. Many, many vegetables. Vegetables, a lot of good quality protein, a lot of water, stop the sodas, stop the bullshit, start working out your body, and get a better sense of like how this machine feels when it's moving, it's flowing better, there's less tension in it, your mind feels like relaxed, and you enjoy every single moment of the day better. Step one, everybody knows that step, right? What's step two? Be cool to people. Be nice to as many people as you can. Smile at as many people as you can. Have them smile back at you. Tip well when you go to restaurants. Just do the most you can. Be as nice as you can, you know, and just still manage to not have people walk all over you. Just get through this life as nice as you can. What else? Do what you want to do with your life, right? Don't go be doing something you don't enjoy. Don't do something don't get locked into, you know, a car that you can't afford and doing something crazy because you need the money. Don't do that. Do what you want to do. Do what the fuck is it that you really want to do? Because if someone else is doing it, you can do it, you know? I mean, everybody makes their own path through this world, but a lot of people don't follow the path that they really fucking feel pulled to. You know, just for whatever reason, they got negative programming. You know, when they were kids, someone told them they couldn't do it, or told them to take the shortcut, or take the sure route.
I think probably everybody watching me now has more power in any real sense in which power matters than, say, Louis XIV or Napoleon. We don't have power of life over death, which is probably one we don't want, so that's quite good. But just in terms of when Napoleon wanted to know something, he would have to send people out to Egypt to bring back a stone or something, and scholars would gather and talk about it. And similarly, if he wanted the spice, ships go away and come back. We can go into stores on the corner of the street where the bounty of all 5 continents is heaped up in ways that has never been known. We have access to everything, and most importantly, to information, to knowledge.
Hey. Hey. You a dreamer?
Yeah.
Haven't seen too many of you around lately. Things have been tough lately for dreamers. They say dreaming's dead. And no one does it anymore. But it's not dead, it's just it's been forgotten. Removed from our language. Nobody teaches it, so no one knows it exists. The dreamer's banished to obscurity. Well, I'm trying to change all that, and I hope you are too. By dreaming every day. Dreaming with our hands and dreaming with our minds. Our planet is facing the greatest problems it's ever faced. Ever. So whatever you do, don't be bored. This is absolutely the most exciting time we could have possibly hoped to be alive. And things are just starting.
That's what all this is about. A lot has changed in the past 300 years. People are no longer obsessed with the accumulation of things. We have eliminated hunger, want, the need for possessions. We've grown out of our infancy.
You got it all wrong. It has never been about possessions. It's about power.
Power to do what?
To control your life, your destiny.
That kind of control is an illusion.
Then what will happen to us? There's no trace of my money. My office is gone. What will I do? How will I live?
This is the 24th century. Material needs no longer exist.
Then what's the challenge?
The challenge, Mr. Offenhouse, is to improve yourself, to enrich yourself. Enjoy.
The entire money-structured and materialistic-oriented society is a false society. 10 or 15 years from now, our society will go down in history as the lowest development in man.
You cannot separate yourself.
We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
You cannot separate yourself. And I found that around here in this city that I won't disappear. In this city, I got nothing to fear. In this city.
The armies and navies are not to protect people. They're there to protect an established system. People always ask, how much will it cost to put up these new cities? Do we have the resources to do it? That's the question, not how much does it cost. That's the old question, doing the monetary system.
What kind of competition is there in your body? Suppose your brain said, I'm the most important organ, and the liver said, I am, and I want to go a free enterprise system. You'd rot away in a month if every organ of your body went out for itself.
People are afraid of science and technology because it's so abusive today in so many ways.
The scientific method, if applied socially, will work. It does not attain perfection. It's just a far better system than any other system that we know of today. So I'm not talking about utopian societies where everybody is happy. There's no such condition. All social systems are in a state of evolution. If you had a free society, you couldn't get people to go to war. If you had an intelligent type of upbringing in one's children, they would say there must be many other ways of solving problems other than killing people.
We're going to do this thing, just as the automobile phased out the stagecoach, just as television stepped in and phased out the old vaudeville and the old motion pictures, and we've got to be prepared to face the future.
We have all the technology today to produce abundance all over the world for everyone.
Sanity depends on the acquisition of information and applying that information to the well-being of all people and protecting the environment.
Round here in this city that I won't disappear.
This movement isn't about the 99% defeating or toppling the 1%. You know the next chapter of that story, which is that the 99% create a new 1%. That's not what it's about. What we want to create is the more beautiful world our hearts tell us is possible, a sacred world, a world that works for everybody, a world that is healing, a world of peace. You can't just say, we demand a world of peace. Demands have to be specific. Anything that people can articulate can only be articulated within the language of the current political discourse. And that entire political discourse is already too small. And that's why making explicit demands kind of reduces the movement and takes the heart out of it. And so it's a real paradox. And so I think that the movement actually understands that. The system isn't working for the 1% either. You know, if you were a CEO, you would be making the same choices they do. The institutions have their own logic. Life is pretty bleak at the top too. And all of the baubles of the rich, they're kind of this phony compensation for the loss of what's really important. The loss of community, the loss of connection, the loss of intimacy, the loss of meaning. Everybody wants to live a life of meaning. And today, we live in a money economy where we don't really depend on the gifts of anybody, but we buy everything. Therefore, we don't really need anybody, because whoever grew my food or made my clothes or built my house, well, if they died or if I alienate them, if they don't like me, that's okay. I can just pay somebody else to do it. And it's really hard to create community if the underlying knowledge is we don't need each other. So people kind of get together and they act nice, or maybe they consume together. But joint consumption doesn't create intimacy. Only joint creativity and gifts create intimacy and connection. You have such gifts that are important. Just like every species has an important gift to give to an ecosystem, and the extinction of any species hurts everybody. The same is true of each person. That you have a necessary and important gift to give. And that for a long time our minds have told us that maybe we're imagining things, that it's crazy to live according to what you want to give. But I think now, as more and more people wake up to the truth that we're here to give, and wake up to that desire, and wake up to the fact that the other way isn't working anyway, the more reinforcement we have from people around us that this isn't crazy. This makes sense. This is how to live. And as we get that reinforcement, then our minds and our logic no longer have to fight against the logic of the heart, which wants us to be of service. This shift of consciousness that inspires such things is universal in everybody, 99% and 1%. And it's awakening in different people in different ways. I think love is the felt experience of connection to another being. An economist says that essentially more for you is less for me. But the lover knows that more for you is more for me too. If you love somebody, then their happiness is your happiness. Their pain is your pain. Your sense of self expands to include other beings. That's love. Love is the expansion of the self to include the other. And that's a different kind of revolution. There's no one to fight. There's no evil to fight. There's no other in this revolution. Everybody has a unique calling. And it's really time to listen to that. That's what the future is going to be. It's time to get ready for it and to help contribute to it and make it happen.
I would say that probably one of the most wonderful things you can be given in life is the ability to give. Sometimes because I've had a lucky life, and I have an opportunity to give something or whatever, time or money or whatever it might be, or a presentation or a speech or something, and people say, oh gosh, it's so kind, and I said, well, which would you rather be? Would you rather be someone who asked for help or money, or would you rather be someone who's in a position to give it? It's so obvious which it is. No one wants to ask. Everyone wants to give. And it astonishes me when I do meet people in my profession who are closed to turning up to anything. I mean, I can understand why people wish to guard their privacy and they don't have to turn on every red carpet just because it's a charity event. But there are so many ways you can use any accumulated wealth or reputation or influence you may or may not have that are helpful for other people. And it's just the most natural and wonderful thing to pass it on. Almost everything I do, I sort of aim at my 14, 15-year-old self. I had a very troubled childhood, and it ended up with me going to prison. And I still want to talk to that young me. I still want to, do things for him. This is the book I would like him to have read when he was 16, sort of thing. I write, and not. I hope that my books are preachy or teachy, but I think sharing the benefits of life is the benefit of life, oddly enough.
I do think that as long as you continue looking at things through that old patriarchal Cartesian Newtonian lens, you're going to miss out on what the world really is. You, we, all of us, we need a new vision of the world, and we need a more comprehensive, more inclusive science to support us. There is a new theory emerging now, which places all the ecological concepts we've been talking about into one coherent scientific framework. We call it systems theory. The theory of living systems.
Living systems?
Mm-hmm. All living organisms, as well as social systems and ecosystems. See, this theory would help us get a much firmer grasp on the sciences that deal with life.
Are these all your own ideas, or do other people share them? I mean, has this been applied in the sciences anywhere?
Yes, it is science, but of a new kind. Instead of concentrating on basic building blocks, the systems view concentrates on principles of organization. Instead of cutting things to pieces, it looks at the living system as a whole.
How can you think usefully about things in this holistic way? That's what I don't see. You can contemplate them, you can look at them, as Thomas says. But if you want to do something, if you want to get into specifics, by definition, don't you have to take things apart? How can you talk usefully about a tree without talking about its roots or its leaves or its bark?
Well, I could, without even naming the parts you mentioned. Well, a Cartesian would look at a tree and conceptually take it to pieces. But then he would never really understand the nature of the tree. A systems thinker would look at a tree and see the seasonal exchange between tree and earth, earth and sky. Would see the annual cycle, which really is one big breath the earth takes through its forests, providing us with oxygen, a breath of life, linking the earth with the sky and us with the universe. A systems thinker would look at the tree and see the life of the tree only in relation to the life of the whole forest. Would see the tree as a habitat for birds, a home for insects. But if you look at a tree and try to understand it as something separate, you will be bewildered by the millions of fruits it's producing in its lifetime, because only 1 or 2 trees will grow from those fruits. So if you look at the tree and see it as a member of a larger living system, that abundance of fruits will make sense. Because hundreds upon hundreds of Forest animals and birds will survive because of them. Interdependence. And the tree cannot survive on its own either. To draw water from the ground, it needs the fungus that grows at the tip of each root. And the fungus needs the root to survive, and the root needs the fungus. If one dies, the other dies. And there are millions of relationships like this in our world, each depending on each other for life. The systems theory recognizes this web of relationships as the essence of all living things. Only the uninformed would call such a notion naive or romantic, because this dependency we all share is a scientific fact.
A web of relationships.
Yes, but this time it is the web of life itself.
Is it knowledge? And where does it come from? How can we trust it? And is knowledge the same thing as truth? Is knowing that the Spanish Armada attacked Britain in 1588 actually knowledge? Or is it just simply, in today's technology terms, a sort of piece of metadata that's just flagged in history? It's really no more than that. Without knowing what that means, 1588 Armada, it's pointless, or 1776, or whatever date you choose. And for me, I think the history of the world that has arrived at this point where I can speak and it can be watched by people in all kinds of ways and all kinds of devices and can stay for eternity resting on servers and who knows where, the whole thing of this, it all comes from inquiry. It all comes from open inquiry, and the word really is empiricism, which is a strange word, but what it means is testing things. You don't take anything on trust. You test it out. If a book says, this is, you shall have, you shall have no foreskin, or you must not eat shellfish, you can choose to say this is the word of a divine being, if you like. It doesn't really get you very much further forward, but it can connect you to your history and your people, and I'm not here to disrespect that. Those happen to be laws that are from my people, as it happens, and I don't well, the first one I had no choice on, but I eat seafood, I eat oysters or whatever. But for the rest, I need to know why someone is telling me what is the case. I need to question it and to test it. Authority comes from the validity of information, being repeatable, being open, being free, and not coming with a threat, and not being just told this is the case and you must believe it.
Here's reality, and this is where it's going to sound really strange. I mean, look, Obama thought he was going to change things. Look what happened when he got into office. Guy wins the fucking Nobel Prize, then sends 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan. If he really thought that he was going to be able to do anything differently once you get in office, once you get in there, you kind of understand. You're dealing with a machine that is just fucking beyond your comprehension, so intertwined with corruption. But this is what you can do. What you can do is what we're doing. What you can do is what anybody out there is doing who's showing a more positive example and giving you a more fun and happy way to live your life. You inspire people to potentially live along those same lines. And that's what you can do. And that's what you can do with art, and that's what you can do with writing, and that's what you can do with any form of expression, and that's what you can do if you express yourself and let people know that that's how you're living, and this is the fun way to do it, man. You don't have to be a cunt. You don't have to be a douchebag. You don't have to be out there raping the world. Like, that's not the right way to go about it. It's not fun. You just need a lot of people to recognize that vision and see it and realize, hey, we are only here for a short amount of time. If you go around saying it's all about me, living life like a fucking douchebag, when it's all over, you're going to have just a wreck of a life. You're not going to be enjoying yourself. You're not going to be having a good time through this fucking thing. If we could all recognize that, we really could put this place in a different frequency. We really could make human beings respond and behave on a better level than we're doing now. But the only way that we're going to do it is to electrify the young.
You gotta get in their head. You gotta inspire these people. There's people out there that are hearing some of the shit that you're saying, the shit that Brian's saying, some of the shit that Duncan says on this podcast. They're hearing all this shit, and it's ringing in their mind. They're hearing Eddie's stories. You know, when Eddie starts talking about jiu-jitsu and breaking down life, and people hear about shit like that, man, it gets you thinking. And you start questioning, like, how have I been managing my life? Have I been doing the same thing? I will now be inspired to manage my life in a similar fashion and live in a happy, positive way, and don't get stuck in some fucking trap. And don't think that this thing isn't permanent, because it's not permanent. If you go around living like, you know, you can just keep up with this shitbag life, and eventually someday you're going to get a nap. You know, you're going to get a point in your life where you can settle down and relax. Well, that point's not fucking happening, man. That's not going to happen. Shit begets shit, and it's just going to get worse because your health is going to fail on you. You can still inspire chances. You can still inspire thinking. You can still inspire positive energy. When you're doing that and you're inspiring people and making other people happy, you are literally creating a better environment, and you're moving them along in a good direction. That's the future. That's the only way that we're really going to have a future. Keep it together, bitches.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Some people listen to themselves rather than listen to what others say. These people don't come along very often. But when they do, they remind us that once you set out on a path, even though critics may doubt you, it's okay to believe that there is no can't, won't, or impossible. They remind us that it's okay to believe impossible is nothing.
What holds us back in our lives is our fear. And sometimes when you take a very close look, you find out that your fears aren't exactly what you thought they were.
Well, gentlemen, when the shit hits the fan, some guys run and some guys stay.
So what do you do when you fall down? Get back up. Everybody knows to get back up. But I tell you, there are some times in life where you fall down. You feel like you don't have the strength to get back up.
You know why? It was too damn hard.
Do you think you have hope? You see, I will try 100 times to get up. And if I fail 100 times, if I fail and I give up, do you think that I'm ever going to get up? No. But if I fail, I try again, and again, and again.
Integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Is that too much to ask? Are we asking too much for that? Is it beyond our reach? Because if it is, then we are nothing but sheep being herded to the final slaughterhouse. I will not go down that way. I choose to fight back! I choose to rise, not fall. I choose to live, not die. And I know that what's within me is also within you. It's a valuable future. Believe me.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you do it? Why? Why get up? Why keep fighting? You believe you're fighting for something, for more than your survival? Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know? Is it freedom or truth? Perhaps peace? Could it be for love? Illusions, Mr. Anderson, vagaries of perception. Temporary constructs of a feeble human intellect trying desperately to justify an existence that is without meaning or purpose. And all of them as artificial as the Matrix itself. Although only a human mind could invent something as insipid as love. You must be able to see it, Mr. Anderson. You must know it by now. You can't win. It's pointless to keep fighting. Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
Because I choose to.
So if you really go the whole way and see how you feel at the prospect of vanishing forever, of all your efforts and all your achievements and all your attainments turning into dust and nothingness, what is the feeling? What happens to you? It's a curious thing. The most real state is the state of nothing. That's what it's going to all come to. And for some reason or other, we're supposed to find this depressing. But if somebody is going to argue that the basic reality is nothingness, where does all this come from? Obviously from nothingness. So cheer up, you see. This is what is meant in Buddhist philosophy by saying we are all basically nothing. The essence of your mind, that's how it is behind your eyes, is intrinsically pure. The pure doesn't mean a non-dirty story state of mind, as it is apt to mean in the word purity. Pure means clear, void. So you know the story when the sixth patriarch was given his office as successor. Because he was truly enlightened, there was a poetry contest. And the losing one wrote the idea that the mind, the consciousness, was like a mirror which had to be polished. And constantly I have to polish my mirror. I have to purify my mind, see? So that I'm detached and calm and clear-headed, Buddha. But the one who won the contest said, there is no mirror, and the nature of the mind is intrinsically void, so where is there anywhere for dust to collect? By seeing that nothingness is the fundamental reality, and you see it's your reality, then how can anything contaminate you? All the idea of your being scared and put out and worried and so on is just nothing, it's a dream. Because you're really nothing. But this is the most incredible nothing. If you think of this nothingness as mere blankness, and you hold on to the idea of blankness, and kind of grisly about it, you haven't understood it. Nothingness is really like the nothingness of space, which contains the whole universe. All the sun, moon, and stars, and the mountains and rivers, and the good men and the bad men, and the animals and the insects, the whole bit, all are contained in void. So out of this void comes everything, and you're it. So what I'm showing you is that all this hocus pocus about the fear of nothingness is that, truly speaking, nothingness is what we want to talk about when we talk about the spiritual. Only it's all been ignored. It's all been put down. You say, oh, nothingness. Bleh! Heaven preserve us from that. But that's where the secret lies. And obviously the secret always lies in the place you never think of looking for.
Eventually this is going to be eliminated, just as eventually we hope that government will be eliminated and will become unnecessary, because every individual will be self-governing and therefore relate properly to his brother, and the state will vanish. So too, at the same time, the church will vanish. And that's why in the book of Revelation, in the New Testament, it is said that in heaven there is no temple, because the whole place is the temple.
What I'm saying to you comes out of my heart, and it's after 56 years of being alive. I don't need anyone to give me a permit. I don't need anyone to give me a license. I don't pay anyone to allow me to speak. I in no way am in need of anyone to validate what I say or to in any way enhance what I say. I say what I choose, when I choose, the way I please, and no one has anything to say about what I will believe and what I will do, because I have a very special relationship with that divine force that brought me here, and I know who I am, and I've done some homework, and I'm not presenting myself as the world's foremost authority, but I'll tell you one thing, I know where it isn't. I don't know all that I need to know about the divine, but I know where it ain't. It is not in any church, organization, government, or any institution sponsored by men that pays tribute to Caesar and needs a contract or a covenant or any kind of a permit from Caesar. No organization of men can take the place of that divine inside of you that connects with the universe when you go into your inner chambers and shut the door and talk to your creator and within yourself. That's where the real power is, and that's what the government's always known. That's what the Caesars and the Pharaohs and all the other totalitarian dictatorships have always known. They do not want you having your own special contact with the divine. That's dangerous. I'm telling you that we better wake up and find out that that's why we're in the mess we're in today, because we've given our sovereignty away, we've given our spirituality away, and now we're waking up and finding out we've even given our country away. We've given it all away.
We've been raped.
Period. Big time. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of religious clergy ad hominem attacks on my person. I am tired of people attacking me personally and not answering my charges. I am tired of Protestants talking about how terrible Catholics are. never understanding that they are the offspring of the Catholic Church. They wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for the Catholic Church. And 99.9% of everything that has been taught by the Protestant Church in the world today is absolutely pure and adulterated Roman theology, and can be traced back to the Baal worship and the ancient Baal worship of the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Druids of Northern Europe, and all of the religions and the philosophies and the institutions that have been built up for the past 2,000 years have got to go. It is now time for all of us to turn inward and go back to that divine source from which we all came and get ourselves straight with the divine force in the universe, because I'm telling you, we're in trouble. And there is nobody going to, the same people that got you into this mess are not the people that are going to get you out. What is going to get you out of this mess is taking back that which has been stolen from you, taking back your spirituality, taking back your sovereignty, and saying to the church, to government, and to everybody else that was as interested, I will not bow my knee ever again. I don't care about your God, I don't care about your divinity, I don't care about your spirituality, I don't care about your government, I don't care about anything. All of it is man-made manipulation, exploitation of the poor, and for the first time, I would personally suggest start educating yourself, and that's real dangerous. Start reading and studying and finding out where things come from, and get ready to accept some things which you are not ready for at this moment. That is what I would highly suggest you start to do. Get back your own spirituality. The only way you're going to do that is educate your mind to start with. Intellectual and spiritual enlightenment is the only thing that's going to save us. And don't look for the church or government, because they are both institutions dreamt up in the minds of Caesars.
Team Spirit, Team Spirit. Team Spirit, Team Spirit. Team Spirit, Team Spirit.
I don't, if I see a YouTube film or read a blog, I don't let my eyes go below to the bottom half of the screen, because I get so fantastically upset by people who write comments. I don't actually know anybody who writes comments, and I think that's the point. The kind of people who put comments are themselves so weird and unhappy and alone and strange. Trolling, it's called, you know, when you read, you know, vicious comments about things. I mean, really weird sort of thing, either politically weird or religiously weird, or just so intolerant or so desperate to be heard, so offensive. Just please, you know, please listen to me. They're saying all the time, listen to me. And of course, you don't want to. Or if you do, you just get so upset. You might even be tricked into replying with an aggressive reply to some idiot and their vile opinions about things, which they will use on complete, you know, it might just be a little thing of a puppy rolling around on, you know, some random YouTube thing, and they've just somehow managed to get a thread of nastiness into it. And they just want to be heard, and they are so resentful, and they're so annoyed, and especially they do it on other people's blogs, because the fact that someone is reading somebody else's blog and not theirs is maddening enough, and they may have liked something they hate. So, I mean, this even happens in technology. If you write, so something, I know, oh, I saw on my iPhone the other day, and they go, oh, you've got an iPhone, and you just get like 2 pages of anti-Apple madness. You talk about get a life, but that's, you know, that all comes down to the same problem, these self-obsessed people. And because they're self-obsessed, they just build up, these poisons build up inside them, they have to get out. Maybe it's better if they get out in comment pages on the internet than in violence on the streets, but it's still distressing for us all to see.